Part 2, Miracle Jewel Archangel. He's an angel. The battle in purgatory. With this realization, he knew Michael's soul was not of earth, and he would have to protect him no matter the cost. He couldn't let Michael's angelic essence be drained as it was in his time, or a long time before he had been born. He wanted to fall to his knees and exalt Michael, but knew angels far too well. Michael wouldn't take kindly to worship, for it was not his to take and belonged to God. He alone was worthy of praise. Darcia was thinking about telling Michael his role. Everything started changing. It started to spin, and the colours of items in Michael's room intermingled into the worst colour you could possibly imagine. Michael became engulfed by fear. "What's happening?" he muttered. Darcia knew exactly what was happening and where they were going, so he answered, "We are being sucked into purgatory." Darcia had been to purgatory once before, at around the same age as Michael. Luckily for him, by this age he had joined the rebellion. It was an awful place, and the entire time he was terrified. All he could remember was the smell of rotting bodies and seeing half-dead people everywhere. They were between life and death. Luckily for him, he had a dimension-piercing signal, so he could get back up. The colour of the smoke produced would let the platoon know which dimension he was in. The smoke appeared on Earth, and Lemuel Lingus saw the smoke. It was grey with red streaks. He knew his sword could pierce the veil between worlds, but it was a one-way trip. Darcia was hiding. He heard an awful voice. "Bow to me, and I will spare you. You shall be a child of Baal." It roared. The roar went through every fibre of Darcia's being. He despised demons, so bowing to one was not an option. But what exactly were his options? "I can smell your fear, child," roared the monster. Darcia readied his weapon, because hiding was not a strategy. But if the monster was going to find him anyway, he decided he would jump out. At that moment, Baal and Darcia heard Lemuel's voice calling to Darcia. Baal yelled, "There you are," and lunged at Lemuel, putting his claws into Lemuel's chest. This was Darcia's chance to launch his stealth attack, and he stabbed Baal through his stone heart. Baal exploded. In Lemuel's last breath, he told Darcia how to get back. "In the satchel, there is lamb's blood. Burn it." Then he died. So Michael burned the lamb's blood. Baal was the first demon he killed. He appeared back on Earth, and now he was returning. But he had learned a few things during his time with the rebellion, so he would be able to protect himself and keep Michael safe. Purgatory wasn't much different from the time he had first entered. It was dark and airy. Everything looked withered, and life had been sucked out of the atmosphere. And if they stayed too long, their life would be sucked out of them too. The only ones who could truly survive in this realm were demons or anything devoid of purity. Purgatory could devour a soul's goodness, and once that was gone, you would become a husk, a mere shell of what you once were. Darcia heard an awful sound, which he recognized. It was the sound of possessed cats. They were hissing. These cats were known as Abyss Superfeline, and they sounded close. Darcia felt the most uneasiness thinking of this possessed creature, knowing that what they were capable of. One bite, one scratch could make your soul leak to the underworld. The fact Darcia and Michael were in purgatory could only mean one of two things. Either he would have to slay Baal once again, or kill Callias, King of Purgatory, wanted to consume Michael's soul. Without thinking and on a whim, Darcia shouted, "Absorb Michael. Light encompass Michael." Then Michael and the light were drawn into Darcia's hand, shrinking rather quickly until Michael was no longer visible. Darcia heard a voice that was like thunder. "Do you think that will keep him safe? It only makes it easier to consume the both of your souls." Then there was a hurried cackle. It was bitter. Darcia looked around, but there was no sign of the monster. He pressed the button upon the hilt of the blade as to make it susceptible to kill the demons of purgatory. His sword was covered by gold flames, unlike the fire within earth. Then Darcia came to an alley, which was a stupid place to retreat because the demonic cats were alley cats. They lunged towards him from every angle. Their fangs and teeth were sharper than your everyday cats. To make things worse, it started to rain. But the rain was not like normal rain. It was blood, and it made it hard to see. Then out of nowhere, Michael's voice yelled, "Rover," and somehow Rover materialized. Rover didn't look the same as he once looked. His fur was golden, unlike any earthly pet's fur. He had silver wings and a white aura surrounded him. As he barked, a wave of pure golden energy dispersed from his mouth, eradicating most of the demon cats mid-pounce. Within the bark, there was a warning, "Duck!" So Darcia did just as he heard. But his sword was above his head, and one straggler cat was sliced in half. As it hit the floor, the cat became goo and then disappeared. Then Darcia caught the glimpse of a mysterious shadow. Darcia knew this could only be one demon, Callias, king of shadows, the bringer of darkness. Callias was a tadpole, which meant he was very fast, and was evident by the cut that was upon Darcia's arm. Most demons wouldn't pass up a chance of inflicting pain before killing their victims, and this usually was their downfall when dealing with somebody with experience like Darcia. Darcia knew eye contact would only give Callias control. All tadpoles have the ability to shatter a person's will, turning them into a mindless drone. If a person is to glance into their eyes, Darcia had a special ointment prepared for times like this. The ointment was similar to what was used to give Tobias' dad back his vision, a carp gallbladder. This was also part of how Darcia could make Asmodeus retreat. During his time period, burning the heart of the carp, the gallbladder was a different fish, though. It was the Kingfisher Brixham's gallbladder. Darcia rubbed the ointment into his eyes. He could see Callias, but not properly. The blood rain distorted his vision. Callias was ugly. His face was mangled and upside down. His teeth and nose were his teeth were not where they were meant to be. He had black horns that protruded from his chin, and orange eyes. He was covered in spikes, and his body was a luminous green. He literally looked like sludge. Darcia knew he had to dispatch of the demon as quickly as possible, or else the ointment's effects would wear off. So he reached into a pouch he was carrying and pulled out a small golden orb, which was a holy grenade. These grenades were filled with grace from the angels. The way this grenade explodes is different from that of an earthly grenade. It sucks the demon inside, then speaks the most holy words, which only God's heavenly angels know. And this was a good thing, for no man had the purity to utter such words, and if they tried, it would obliterate them. These words could bring Satan to his knees if uttered by the right angel. As Darcia threw the grenade, Callias tried to flee, for he could feel the holy embrace of the grenade, and he feared it. But it was too late for Callias. With the range between Darcia and Callias, there was no chance of escape. The grenade pulled Callias in and uttered the words loudly, but Darcia's human ears couldn't make out the sound, and the air was cleansed by holy light. Then a creature like an eagle appeared, who had fur of a lion and paws of a bear. I am the first of 7 spirits who sit before the throne of God. I am here to assist the archangel. Allow me to merge with his spirit before he arrives. Darcia wanted to question the spirit, but felt a sense of urgency in its voice, so he uttered, "Release Michael the way he was." Michael materialized rather quickly, and as he did, the spirit walked into his body. His eyes rolled to the back of his head, and he fell to the floor. But before Darcia could worry, he felt an awful familiar presence which terrified him. He felt dizzy and weak. The whole world started shaking. He could feel his molecules shifting and knew what that meant. They were going to be summoned into the part of the hell which Abaddon ruled over. Abaddon was a demon who was undefeatable in his time. Darcia knew Abaddon's pull was stronger because they were in a world betwixt worlds. He knew if he could manage to burn the lamb's blood before they ended up in the monster's universe, they could escape Abaddon's ability to force them into his realm. Darcia checked his pouch and pulled out the vial of blood, then burned it, holding on to Michael, and in less than a second, they were back on Earth. And that's all I'm doing for now. Obviously, I don't know if I'm going to read everything. I'm only going to read little segments here and there because I don't want to give away my full story. But I just thought I'd give you a second sample.